Welcome to Iron Army, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 craziest Anthem runway challenges. For this list, we'll be looking at the most wild and memorable runway challenges that the contestants have faced on America's Next Top Model.
My heart is kind of pounding out of my chest right now.
All right, let go of the trust.
And I'm just thinking, I'm about to fall to my death.
Shortly after finding out that they had made it into the top 16, the models were greeted with some not-so-happy news. They be walking a vertical runway for their first challenge. What is a vertical runway, you ask? Well, it basically means they have to walk down the side of a building. And the girls have to do it in heels.
On the ledge, and I looked down. My first thought was like, what if the cord snaps? I have a kid to live for. I can't die right now.
Anything for fashion, right? Once they're unhooked from their harnesses, then they have to walk down a regular runway and keep their composure no matter what happened to them during the vertical portion.
He's got something stuck to his leg.
Not unrealistic. These girls have to be prepared to do almost anything to sell a garment.
Why oh why do they continuously make these poor girls walk in precarious conditions over water? In stilettos?
It starts tipping and I almost fall in.
All right, she nailed it.
In Cycle 7, the models had to basically walk the gangplank. They were asked to work on a teeter-tottering dock over water that seemed to wobble no matter how carefully they planned their steps.
I just have to make sure that in each shot, I'm giving some sort of emotion, so hopefully it comes out well.
On top of all that, Carrie D also had to deal with a wardrobe malfunction that took place while she was trying to keep her balance.
It's fashion, honey. Boobs do peekaboo in fashion show.
At least she was able to laugh about it. Eugenia fell during her walk, which landed her in the bottom 2 that week.
As soon as I stepped on it, with one foot, I slid. I kept going after I fell off. I just kept going.
It's a challenge, and you girls have to walk through these pendulums with perfect timing. If not, you just may get locked.
When the pitch for a runway challenge sounds like a level of Super Mario, you might want to reconsider. In Cycle 14, the models were forced to contend with large pendulums swinging from the ceiling.
Pendulum hits me and it startles me. So my main focus is just keep going, pose, so they know that I recovered well.
They had to time their walk flawlessly in order to avoid being hit by one of them.
I was so embarrassed thinking, oh man, I messed it up, I blew it.
One model, Alexandra, fell twice during this challenge. Once while walking down the stairs, which didn't even have anything to do with the pendulum, and a second time when one of the swinging objects knocked her right off the runway.
Oh, Lord, baby girl.
Have you ever walked on a conveyor belt before?
No.
I don't even know how to walk normally, let alone on a conveyor belt, but we'll see.
Any challenge that seems like it's trying to ensure that at least one girl falls over is a crazy one in our books.
Do you think there's a risk with this getting caught in the conveyor belt?
Girl, fashion is a risk.
In Cycle 15, the models were forced to walk on a conveyor belt-style runway all while wearing elaborate and constricting gowns by Herve Ledger. The movement of the extra-long treadmill caused more than one of the girls to stumble, which we can't say was exactly surprising. What did the judges think was going to happen? This didn't exactly seem like a practical way to judge the girls on anything to do with modeling.
There's one more thing. Did I happen to mention that we'll also be lighting you on fire tonight? You will be walking with your hands actually on fire.
We're not sure what was going on behind the scenes in Cycle 16, but this season featured another ridiculous runway challenge. In this episode, they were wearing items by Jeffrey Mack and walking through a pyrotechnics extravaganza to show them off. But as if that wasn't enough, the girls also had to set their own hands on fire before actually starting their walk, and strut with small flames in the palms of their hands the entire time.
As soon as I lit my hands on fire, I was like the queen of fire or something.
What was the logic behind this? Has any model ever had to do this in a real runway show? We'll probably never know.
I'm scared, waiting for the cue backstage to go, and then I go and I'm trying to light myself on fire. You know, usually that's a good thing. You have trouble lighting yourself on fire.
Sometimes Anthem challenges leave us asking why. In the very first episode of Cycle 16, the models were thrown into a ridiculous competition.
Not only are we on a 12-inch board, we're over water. And then they're like, oh, and then we're gonna put you in this big-ass plastic ball. I'm like, I'm gonna be the one that falls because I'm that clumsy.
They might have initially been thrilled to be able to model looks by much-loved designer Alexander Wang, but they were probably questioning the show's methodology when they found out they'd be walking over water in a bubble. Of course, more than one girl found herself struggling to stay upright, and while they may have tried to work it, the end result just left us feeling bad for them.
Girl down.
After receiving a primer on how to properly work it on a runway, the group found out that they'd be modeling clothes for renowned designer Jeremy Scott. As if that wasn't intimidating enough, they also have to wear blindfolds while modeling his wares.
All the confidence in the world, probably for the first time in this competition.
If this seems like a cruel and unusual challenge to you, you wouldn't be wrong. Not only that, but to make the stakes even higher, the competitors were told that someone would be eliminated after the challenge and wouldn't even get a chance to do that week's photo shoot.
Do some cute poses and go back.
When the final few girls headed to Morocco in Cycle 16, they were in for a surprise when it came to their runway challenge. In a themed challenge that in retrospect seems just a teensy bit culturally appropriative, the girls donned locally inspired outfits and had to walk with trays of lit candles on their heads.
I think Brittany.
My God, she's transformation. She started to move,
she started dancing
and she didn't fall down her tray.
The tray, she didn't drop her tray.
As you can imagine, this didn't go smoothly for everyone, and they should be thankful that there were people on hand to prevent this from turning into arson rather than fashion.
I'm walking downstairs and I trip on my skirt. And Miss J was like, if things fall off, you know, you can pick them up and be cute. And I was just like, screw this.
We know balance is important, but this seemed a bit extreme.
I don't really have like the hip movement, so I just kind of tried to maybe do the wave.
By the time Anthem had reached the 21st season, the producers had to get creative when it came to thinking up challenges.
I'm really nervous. I'm nervous that something's gonna fall off and I'm gonna be naked on stage.
How could they possibly create a runway challenge unlike any they had done before? Well, one way is to dispense with fashion altogether and have the models walk down the catwalk with only silly string covering them up. Considering this happened very early in Cycle 21, it should come as no surprise that some of the contestants were absolutely terrified to be strutting their stuff essentially in the nude for all to see.
You know, Adam was like a joke. The one thing missing from Adam's walk was holding a keg.
You really want to know how high the stakes really are?
Take a look up there.
Take a look up there.
Anthem competitors know that they're in for a challenge when they sign up for the show, but it turns out that if you're afraid of heights, you might want to pass on this particular modeling competition.
Because even though I'm like super tall, I'm still afraid of heights, which is kind of ironic.
In the show's 15th cycle, the models were thrilled to find out that they'd be modeling clothes by the legendary designer Diane von Furstenberg. But their spirits inevitably fell when they found out where they'd be modeling them. 4 stories in the air on a clear runway.
And, well, at least it's a harness, and you're not down there.
Not only did this mean that the audience on the ground couldn't even get a good look at the clothes, but it also meant that the models were absolutely terrified.
I was so scared. Like, I had to think, am I gonna die? Do I look good? And same.
Subscribe now.